Hello, Jennifer here with your review for the month. The novel I chose to review this month is called Haunted Ground, and it's by Erin Hart. And this novel takes place in Ireland, and it's definitely an interesting picture of Ireland. It takes place in a very small town, not near the big city, where a farmer is doing some turf cutting, which I believe is something to do with they take pieces out of the ground near a bog and then they use it. It's kind of like a coal substance to heat their homes, but I guess it's a very old-fashioned way of heating your home. So really it's more of the people in the countryside of Ireland that are doing this. And one day while he's turf cutting, he comes across amazingly enough, the head of a young woman with red hair. Now, I didn't know this, but in speaking with some people about the book, they have said that bog mummies are actually pretty prevalent in Ireland, which is something I knew nothing about, but there's whole books and research topics and such, and scientists that are working with these bog mummies. So I thought that was very interesting that it sort of ties into something that really happens. Also, in talking to some of my friends who have read this novel, they said the first 30 pages are a little hard to get into, and I do have to agree. It is a little slow. It's got a slower setup, but I do encourage you to keep going. It is certainly worthwhile. It gets into much more interesting and exciting things. Once this head is found in the bog, of course they have to call in the authorities, and they call in an archaeologist named Cormac McGuire, and he's working with the National Museum. And he has a colleague who's an American. Her name is Nora Gavin, and she's come to Ireland to teach and sort of get away from some stuff that we find out about later in the book. So she has kind of a troubled past, but she really throws herself into this investigation. So Cormac and Nora are investigating this bog mummy, or the head of the bog mummy, as well as working for a wealthy landowner in the area named Hugh Osborne. Now the odd thing about Hugh Osborne is that he has lost his wife and child, but they don't know what happened to them, if they just ran away, if they did meet their fate, if he was responsible, if someone he knew was responsible. So there's this air of mystery around this man, where Nora and Cormac are going and staying at his house to do some work for him, and some archaeology work and some bog digging, and they may be staying in the house of a murderer, but they don't know. So they have very conflicted feelings about him. Cormac sort of already gives him the benefit of the doubt and gets along with him, but Nora is very standoffish and sort of worried about the relationship and who this man really might be. It's a wonderfully descriptive novel. It tells you all about the locals and their music and their pubs and their songs, and they deal with an old teacher friend of Cormac's, and they go and listen to him tell stories of the ancient times, and then they visit his aunt who tells about songs that would have been sung, in the Gaelic a dialect, in the early times, and some of her songs actually contain clues to the mysteries of the bog mummies that they're working on. So everything sort of becomes intertwined. There's also some mysterious guests that are staying at Hugh Osborne's house with Cormac and Nora, that are long-distance, long-lost cousins of Hugh's that have come to stay with him because they're destitute, etc. But they're very strange and standoffish. So as Cormac and Nora go through the town, they get to know more of the local folk. They get to know the farmer who is doing the turf cutting. They get to know the local pub owner and the local shop owner. You really get a feeling of this small Irish town, and sort of how everybody talks behind everyone else's back, and they know if they say one thing like, I wonder, what happened to this, if they say that to the shopkeeper, that, 3 days later in the pub, they will find the answer, because it's gone from person to person to person to person and comes back to them again with a little more information than they started with. So the characters are very memorable. Everything is wrapped up, as a good cozy mystery should be, and we do find out more about Nora's past and sort of her intentions and relationship with Cormac. We do find out a little more about the Osborne family and their mansion and their wealthy land-owning, perspective and stuff like that. So all in all, very interesting. Erin has written 2 other novels. Her second novel, I believe, also deals with bog mummies. So if you want to check that out. And her third novel, which just came out, and I cannot remember the title, but I know it has mermaid in it, so look for Mermaid and Erin Hart. But it continues Nora's story and sort of the haunting background that we find her having in this novel is continued back in America with Erin Hart's third novel. But do start with the first one because they do kind of go in order. And again, that's Haunted Ground by Erin Hart. It's not really a gory mystery, it's really much more of a cozy mystery. It does have a few swear words in it, so if that you find that objectionable, just be forewarned. And it has a teeny bit of romance, but certainly we're not talking about any bodice rippers by any sort. So I do highly recommend it. It was a lovely read for a snowy day or a rainy day with a cup of tea. Certainly makes you want to drink tea after being in Ireland and they all stop for tea all the time. But Haunted Ground by Erin Hart, highly recommended. I hope you enjoy it. You can get it here at the Helen Plum Library.